Nets and Bolts, a show for fans of hockey, and especially the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hosted by Mike Gallimore. All right. We're really doing this. Welcome to a brand new show that has hockey enthusiasts in mind, especially for those who eat, sleep, and breathe the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm Mike Gallimore, a longtime fan who's been giving commentary on individual players, the team, the league, publicly going on a decade now, but for the first time in a medium in which I have just about no experience operating in. What could possibly go wrong? There's a good chance you're listening because you know me from Twitter, but however you wound up here, perhaps adding a little bit of my background is in order. Long story short, I'm a Tampa native, one of those suburban 90s kids who became fascinated with hockey and dropped other sports as I gradually made the street to court to ice transition that was common at the time. I've essentially grown up with the franchise, which played a big role in the bond I shared with my dad. His passing and the arrival of my two youngest children took a bit of wind out of my sails, but I feel invigorated and more eager than the past couple of years to indulge in the bread and circus. I'm a local high school teacher, which is actually the reason I got the gumption to give this a whirl. I finally got around to making instructional videos for my advanced placement students, and the experience got me thinking I might just be able to act on the itch I've had for a while now. The timing just seems right, and I'm kind of a dabbler anyway, so here we are. So what can you expect from the show moving forward? Well, I do realize that a 30-something white guy launching any sort of podcast is hardly novel, but I guess I envision an extension of my Twitter persona, with which I've always tried to make my rooting interest clear, but also demonstrate the ability to put it aside, especially when assessing a player's or a team's on-ice performance, And there will be fancy stats. I repeat, there will be fancy stats, sprinkled in. My desire, as always, though, is to serve as a reasonable and independent voice in the mix. The plan for episodes is to chiefly consist of yours truly, but I'm hoping to work in interviews and some other fun segment ideas, as well as get listeners involved somehow. And while the show will largely revolve around the Bolts and the NHL at large, it will almost certainly be infused with other interests outside that scope. As for frequency, the goal is to put out a new episode most weeks during the season. I figured a brief bit of personal trivia would be a fun way to close out this introductory episode. And so I cooked up a handful of easy questions. Favorite Lightning season? You're almost obligated to say the 03-04 season if you're following the team at the time. But, and it really was a special year. It really was, for sure. But, after years of stinking, and I was up in Gainesville attending the University of Florida in the early 2000s. And so they turned the corner in 2002, 2003 under John Tortorella. And so in a way, I followed as much as I could. I watched nearly every game on Sun Sports. But, I really didn't, it just wasn't quite the same being kind of watching the team from afar. That's how it felt. Still very special though. But I really have to say the 2013-2014 season, strangely, maybe because that year ended in a pretty ugly sweep at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens, if you recall. That was John Kruper's first full season. Really, the reason for this is pretty personal in the sense of I just had a really fun opportunity I spent a couple of seasons with media credentials, courtesy of my affiliation with Bolt Prospects. And so it was just neat covering the team, if you want to say that. I wasn't a beat writer necessarily or anything like that, but I did get to peek behind the curtains and attend games, and interview players, and just a real real neat experience, and sitting up in the press box and seeing the game just from a different angle. Um, I'm going to go with the 2013 2014 season. Just very memorable all around. Favorite Lightning player of all time? Man, there's so many players past and current that I enjoy watching so much. But if somebody was twisting my arm, I'd have to say Vinny Lecavalier. Probably partly because nostalgia factor. He was drafted in 1998, first overall. I was in high school still. We were kind of close in age. I kind of looked up to him as a player. I loved the way he played, a combination of his size, but the kind of the grace that he could play with. There was a patented, catch the puck behind him and just kind of lightly whip it through his skates as he's crossing a blue line and regain possession as he crosses into the offensive zone. I just little things that he did, little plays he made. But then on the other hand, strong as an ox and really didn't take a lot of shit from anybody. So a very memorable scrap with Jerome McGinley in the Stanley Cup Finals, in 2004, kind of epitomized the range of his game. And of course, I enjoyed watching Vinny play with the other two amigos, Marty and Brad. But push comes to shove, I'd have to say Vinny. He's the only player, past or present, who I have a Lightning jersey with their name on it. Just kind of interesting that I haven't got around to. I'm not really a memorabilia guy. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I have enough sweaters, I guess, from playing the game. But I do have Vinny's. I do intend to add to my collection. But Vinny Lecavalier, favorite all time. Favorite non-Lightning player of all time. Well, that one's easy. Sergei Fedorov. Um, by way of my dad, who, while he got me into hockey with watching the Lightning, being from Detroit, he moved down here in the Tampa Bay area in the 1970s. He wanted to keep tabs with how the Wings were doing once they became a powerhouse in the mid 90s, and that's how I started to see Fedorov with some sort of regularity, whether it was games on Fox or in the playoffs. A lot of times I recall playoff matches, but how could you not enjoy watching Sergei Fedorov play with the speed, his ability, stick handling, and just the commercials. Everything about him was just exciting from where I was sitting as a 10, 11, 12-year old kid. So that one's an easy one for me. Favorite Lightning player currently? Nikita Kucherov, without a doubt. If I'm not cheering the Kucherov fan club, I don't know who is. Man, what a fun story too. I mean, he comes across the pond and he takes the Q by storm after being traded by Patrick Waugh. He turns pro, plays his way onto the Lightning's roster after a brief stint in Syracuse, where he shined and really hasn't looked back. He's progressed as the seasons have gone on, and he's a superstar now. And it's just been such a fun story. But what can I really say about him? I mean, he's everybody knows how dangerous he is with the puck, as a passer, as a shooter, and really, I think honestly, early in his career, he really had a two-way game about him, and the edge has always been there too. He's got a little bit of feistiness in him, and we saw that, of course, come out not to the Lightning's advantage there in the series against Columbus. Took a pretty bad penalty there and got himself suspended for the last game. But just again, a fantastic player, and honestly, if there's a player who I'm going to add to my jersey collection, it's going to be Kucherov. Favorite non-Lightning player currently? Alex Ovechkin, the great one. Much respect. Man, I mean, who doesn't like watching Ovechkin crank one-timers from his office?
And he's a player that's certainly tormented the Lightning among many other teams with his prolific scoring. But honestly, one of the things I've really enjoyed about Ovechkin over the years is the personality. I mean, I know it kind of rankled some Lightning fans when he pulled off the hot stick. In the moment, maybe even I was agitated. I don't know, but really, in hindsight, just throughout his career, he's been this wonderful display of just enthusiasm and quirky behavior. I just love it. Can't get enough of it. Give me more Alex Ovechkins, please. The sport needs it. I think it would benefit from his infectious approach to life, to the game. So Alex Ovechkin, definitely my favorite current player.
And that's a wrap for this introductory episode of Nets and Bolts. Again, I'm Mike Gallimore. You can find me on Twitter at Mike Gallimore. I'll soon have details on the next episode and any subscription information as I sort all that stuff out. Thank you for listening.